Hello and a very warm welcome into A Slice of Life hour here on 938 Live. I'm Eugene Loh. Thank you for joining me for some DIY motivation. And of course, you're very welcome to join our conversation today by calling in at 669-11938. You can also connect with me via Facebook. Search A Slice of Life or Official 938 Live under Pages, and I'll share your comments on air as soon as they come in. What is the meaning of life? Well, most of us at some point in our lives have asked ourselves that question, and some thinkers have proposed that, our purpose, our meaning in life is to be happy, that human beings were put on this earth simply to be happy. Many of us are finding happiness rather elusive, and even more of us are realizing that even when we do find happiness, it doesn't last very long. So what does it mean to be truly happy, and why is happiness so elusive? How can we find more lasting and deeper fulfillment? To share her thoughts with us today, I have with me Angie Monksfield, who is the founder of Brahm Centre. Angie is a trained counselor. She conducts motivational talks. She is a full-time IT professional and an advisor to Wings as well. Angie, welcome to 938 Live.
Hi, Eugene. Nice to be here. Thank you for your invitation.
Pleasure to have you here, Angie. First of all, share with us, why do you think happiness is so hard to find or to hold on to for some of us?
Well, that's because we keep changing our minds in terms of what we want. When we were young, we thought that by just having some sweets and some toys to play, that would be sufficient. But we all know when you look at children, after they've played with a toy for a little while, they get bored and they move on. And this thing seems to continue in our life. After one thing, and when we've got it, then we decide we want something different or something more. So therefore, happiness continues to be elusive.
There's this yearning, always this yearning for more, isn't it?
That's right. And if I may just share a story with you.
Yes.
It's about these 5 children in a classroom. The teacher asked them, what would you like if you were granted a wish? And the first child says, I wish I would get an ice cream every day. And the second child looked at the first child and said, teacher, I think I would like to get an ice cream factory if I had a wish, because then I can have as much ice cream every day, not just one ice cream a day. And then the teacher said, oh, that's really clever. So looked at the third child and said, well, what would you like if you had a wish? And the third child said, I would want $100 million. That way I can have an ice cream factory and many other things that I would love, including toy factories and whatever that I wish. I said, wow, how can you beat that, right? And the fourth child was even smarter. He said, if I had a wish, I'll wish for 3 wishes. Because when I get my 2 wishes granted, my third wish will be I'll get another 3 wishes. Now that really tops it all. But the last child was the most brilliant. And he said, my wish is that I have no need for wishes. Now that
wise
child was wise, and he has contentment. And through contentment, then you have really found happiness. Because as long as you can't appreciate what you have, you want more. And as long as you want more, you'll never really enjoy what you have.
So this need for more, do you believe it's kind of like a human condition that we were born with this need to always
There's a word for it. It's called the human defilement. It's in short, it's greed. Greed motivates us to always want something more, something better. And then we'll never find the happiness we're looking for.
Do you think that living in a society such as ours, a modern society, with we're exposed to so many things, and the world is so much bigger than just this country that we're living in. Does this kind of feed our hunger for more, even more?
Yes, you find that in poorer countries, you hardly hear of people suffering from depression, and they have psychological problems. But as country progresses, then you find more what we term as social problems, because there's just a constant barrage of advertisements and motivation for you to make more money, accumulate more material wealth, and you forget really what you're living for. Which is really to have good relationships with people. You're able to sit down and enjoy a cup of tea and have a good conversation, not get into arguments, and not always seeking the next dollar and the next better car or another condominium or whatever that is.
Yeah, but these messages are being, ingrained into our psyche from a young age. The messages that we're being bombarded with, you're always told to take more, to get the most value, even at the buffet table. It's almost as if you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to get as much as possible, So how do we get out of this vicious cycle? How do we know when is enough and when is enough for us?
Well, wisdom definitely comes from the insights as part of our experience. So as you mentioned the buffet table, and you've been there, you've eaten and you gorged yourself. How do you really feel?
After that, right?
Yes.
You feel sick.
Yes, and then you put on weight, and then you feel unwell because you're fat, and you look at yourself, you're not very pleased with yourself, and then you have to pay all this money to get the fats off. So I think experience tells us that wanting more, eating more, is just not going to bring you happiness.
Yes.
And I even am concerned about Bhutan. I mean, now that they're opening more, I hear that the happiness index is declining rather than sustaining or on the incline. So there you go. It's a proof that if the society keeps bombarding us with wanting more, having more, we just have to step back and says, we're not going to continue this journey on somebody else's agenda because it doesn't make me happy.
Yeah, correct.
And that's why we started Brahm Centre, because we want to promote a different way of thinking, a different way of looking at life, putting more wisdom into our living so that indeed we know how to be happy.
So the key is contentment.
And it doesn't mean that you're lazy. It's about putting in the best effort. Just as if you're studying for exam, put in your best effort to study hard. And whatever the results come out, be contented.
Yeah.
If you got a B, be happy about it.
It's not being passive. Some people may misunderstand it as, just being contented with whatever you have. Some people say, this is my lot, this is the best I can do, and that's it, But it's not about that. You do the best you can, but when you've done that and you are able to, answer to yourself that, yes, I've done my best, then to be happy with what you have. And yes, it's not to be lazy as well, because I think there is merit in actually rediscovering and appreciating more of what you already have. I think most of us don't do that enough. Once we have something, we take it for granted.
That's right. So it's not about complacency. It's about really appreciating the blessings that you have. I know that that's like a cliche, but this story maybe helps to put things in perspective. There was one Cambridge graduate, an Englishman, who decided to become a monk. He gave it all up, and so when he was part of this group that was building a monastery, he learned how to build a wall, laying bricks. And being an achiever, high achiever, and perfectionist, he wanted to build a perfect wall. And after he finished laying all the bricks, he took a step back and looked at it and said, "My goodness, there are 2 bricks that are out of alignment." He was really upset. So he said to the abbot, "Let's pull that whole brick wall down because I want to rebuild it. I want a perfect wall." And the abbot said, "No, that's good enough." But he was ashamed of it, that wall, and he kept avoiding it, not wanting people to see it. But after a few years, he forgot about it, and walking along with another man who looked at it and says, "Gee, that's a really nice wall." And he turned to this man and said, "Sir, are you not wearing your glasses today? Can't you see those 2 bricks out there? It's out of alignment." And this man turned to him and replied, "But I see 998 good bricks." And it was that moment that he suddenly realized that whenever he looked at that brick wall, all he could see was 2 bad bricks. but other people saw the 998 good bricks.
It's where you place your focus.
Yeah, in our life, we're always looking out for faults.
Yeah.
Faults in other people, faults in ourselves.
Yeah.
And even, especially women, look at the mirror and they don't see that beautiful smile, smiling back at them, or the lights in their eyes, but, oh, 2 pimples have popped up.
Yeah. We always lament the gaps in our lives, but we don't, we fail to appreciate the things that we do have. Yeah.
Indeed.
Well, thanks for sharing that story, Angie. And we'll continue to chat with Angie Monksfield, who is the founder of Brahm Centre. Angie's a trained counselor and a motivational speaker as well. More on chasing the elusive happiness here on A Slice of Life are on 938 Live. And do join our conversation today by calling in at 669-11938. You can also post your comments over at Facebook. Search A Slice of Life or Official 938 Live under pages, and I'll share your comments as soon as they come in. We're chasing the elusive happiness today on A Slice of Life. I'm Eugene Loh. Thank you very much for joining me. And chatting with me about this is Angie Monksfield, who is founder of Brahm Centre. Angie's a trained counselor, a motivational speaker, and advisor to Wings. All right, Angie, share with us then, we were talking about contentment earlier and how that is actually key, to lasting happiness. Some people talk about finding happiness in the wrong places as well. What are your thoughts on that? Or
as
the
we
wrong
earlier
things?
Talked about, that people keep wanting more or something that they don't have, and or when they're trying to do something, they want to do it better. After we put in the best, we've got to just remember it's good enough. These 3 words are very assuring, helps us to put things in perspective, because we can't change the world. We can't change other people. The only person we can change is ourselves.
Yeah, I love that. It's good enough, I'm good enough, and you're good enough with in relation to other people as well. Sometimes much of the unhappiness that we feel comes from being vexed at other people.
Yes, we always think that other people should behave differently.
Correct, yeah.
And they should know, or if only they know what to do and how to do it better. And I have someone who said to me that this life is ineffable. And that means stop saying if. If this happened, if that happened, if he did this, if she did that. We can't go back in time. And so we can only move forward. And even if you had an argument with someone, put it behind us. Move on. It's learning how to let go of the past. Then we can be happy in this moment. There were 2 prisoners of war who came back to Singapore to look at Kranji and Changi Chapel and so on. And when they both walked in, one of them said, "I'm really angry with these Japanese. You know what they did to me?" And this other guy said, "My gosh, it's been 40 years and you still haven't left the prison." Sometimes we think back into an occasion or an event and we're still so angry. That was so long ago. Why can't we just let go, move on, and appreciate what we have now and learn to forgive and let go?
So letting go and contentment as well, 2 of the keys to unlock that lasting and deeper fulfillment or happiness within you. I'm chatting with Angie Monksfield today, and we'll continue to talk about chasing the elusive happiness here on A Slice of Life on 938 Live in about 15 minutes. I'm Eugene Loh. Do stay with me. We're talking about chasing the elusive happiness today here on A Slice of Life 938 Live. I'm Eugene Loh. Thank you so much for joining me here today. My guest is Angie Monksfield, who is the founder of Brahm Centre. She's a trained counselor as well, motivational speaker and advisor to Wings. And you can get more information about Brahm Centre and the work that it does. The Brahm Centre is a charity that seeks to help people live happier and more fulfilling lives. And you can get more information on the internet. That's brahmcentre.com. Brahm as in the classical composer without the S. Okay, and Angie, we're talking about some of the keys to help us unlock that elusive happiness. Earlier on, we talked about minimizing the need for more, contentment, and also letting go of the past. And we talked a bit about forgiveness as well. You shared a story about the two
prisoners of war. Yes,
Yeah.
and you can continue to live in the past and holding a grudge, but what good is that going to do to you? In fact, you deprive yourself of happiness. Most people are able to get angry again by just thinking of what happened or just the thought of the person, the mention of the name. It's actually really crazy, isn't it? I mean, the person is no longer even in front of you anymore. Whatever's happened has been long gone, but you hold on to it, and it's almost like an active anger that goes on in your system, and that's why people get sick.
The drama in the mind just keeps replaying and replaying.
Absolutely. So do yourself a favor, forgive. Acknowledge what has happened, learn from it, because none of us is free of blame that we have contributed to the situation. In one way or another, there was chemistry involved, there were people involved, there were just circumstances involved. So no one can be completely on the wrong and someone else is completely in the right. And it's only when we start to reflect on it, and then we will learn from it and say, I had a part to play in it, and come on, that guy's not so bad. There are a lot of people who love him. There are people who care about him, say good things about him. But when we only want to see the bad, it's like the two bad bricks on the wall. You only want to see the two bad bricks, and you never see the rest of the wall, which is perfect. So forgiveness is a gift you can give yourself, because you just release yourself from all that pain.
Letting go of that, that sense of injustice. Yeah.
Well, the fact of life is that things do take care of themselves, right? That's why there's a law of cause and effect. So don't worry about it. If somebody really deserves to be punished for it, it will happen. Just leave it alone. It's not for you to do the justice.
And we were talking about forgiveness as well. I think it's important also to think about forgiving yourself, because some people find it very, very difficult to let go of that guilt over something they feel they have done wrong, or they have wronged someone, and that they just can't seem to find peace with themselves.
I totally agree. I mean, my mother passed away last November, and for a few months when I was grieving, I realized it was all about guilt, that perhaps I didn't take care of her well enough, or there was much more that I could have done, but I didn't do it. But as a very wise person say, life is ineffable. You can't go back. And after a few months of that, I realized that, hey, you know what? I did my best. And whatever I didn't do as well as I could have, I will forgive myself. And that is so much relief. And no one can do it for you. You can only do it yourself.
Forgiveness, that's another very powerful key to unlocking the elusive happiness. And another major key is love, isn't it, Angie?
Yes. The reality is it starts off with a feeling. Actually, something makes you feel really good, and that's why you kind of fall in love. But just like everything in life, when you've had that person in front of you long enough, even that magic goes away. So love now converts into something that's more actionable, and it involves on how we conduct ourselves in speech and deeds towards that person, and to always be able to look on the good side, because when people divorce, what happens? They only look on the bad sides of the person. Suddenly everything that was fantastic about the person kind of dissipates into the air, which is not true, right?
In a way, they want to see the other person in a bad light, because that makes them feel good or better about themselves.
Yeah, or it justifies, why things have turned out so bad. It's not their fault. It's everything to do with their partner's fault. But even in divorce cases, I think we all know that there's a lot of contributing factors. And sometimes it's not just between the couples, but the in-laws, sometimes even the children and the friends. And so it's very complicated. So it's better not to just blame, but to learn from it, so that you gain wisdom and you're able to live your life better.
So how do we, how can we learn to love more fully, Angie? And we're not talking about love solely in the romantic sense. Some people have come on the show to talk about how important it is to, the secret to true happiness is actually to be able to love everything fully. The world around you, the people around you, animals, nature, everything. It all comes back to love, but that's very difficult to do. What are your thoughts on, perhaps getting ourselves on that path?
I would say the two aspects to loving someone. One is to care, and the other one is to be kind. Because sometimes, even when we care, we're not necessarily kind because we think we always know best. And that person should change and become different because we set our expectations on them. So if we really care about someone, is to care about their happiness, what makes them happy, and support them through their journey and their struggles. Sometimes they just need to do something, even though you don't agree is the best thing. But it's to be there to support them, and when they fall, is to pick them up, but not to stop them from doing it. This applies also, between a parent and a child. It's not just between a couple.
Yeah.
And kind means that not always imposing your views on them and wanting them to do things exactly the way you want, but rather to give them space to grow, to support their growth, to support their adventures and their experiments in life. Because that's what we want other people to do for us when they love us.
Yes, and to love something that is perfect or seemingly perfect is very easy to do. It's very effortless, actually. But to love something in spite of its flaws, to love something that's imperfect, that's the one that requires, the true.
Yes. Beauty is
effort.
Imperfection. After all, we're not perfect. I don't think we kind of turn out the way our parents wanted us to, but they still love us.
Yeah, actually it's true. When you always turn it back to yourself. When you find yourself perhaps not loving or say hating or loathing something you find imperfect, think about yourself. That in a sense, you are also hating yourself because you are imperfect as well.
That's right. And that's what makes us unique. So, when you walk into a forest, do you expect perfection as there's no leaves on the ground? The forest is beautiful because there are leaves everywhere. And the plants don't grow all in this straight line. They don't grow upwards, or, the trees are all different. They turn out differently. So that's the beauty of nature. So nature is imperfect. And when you can appreciate that, then you don't need to feel like everything has to be perfect in accordance to your view of life.
And there's so many other keys to unlocking the elusive happiness that we can discuss, but unfortunately we'll have to leave it for another show. Before we let you go, Angie, you are the founder of Brahm Centre. Tell us more about what Brahm Centre does. It's a charity, I hear.
Yes, it is. It's a charity with IPC status dedicated to promote happy and healthy living. Because we feel that when people are happy, even when you are unwell and you are sick, you could still be happy. After all, if you have a positive mind, even the pain, it's not mental suffering. Pain is inevitable as you get older, but mental suffering is optional.
It's we have to learn not to define ourselves as just perhaps like a sick person. There's so many other aspects to a human being.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And to be able to see the other aspects and to be thankful for that as well. Well, you can get more information about Brahm Centre over at brahmcentre.com. That's BRAHM Centre.com. Brahm as in the classical composer minus the S. Angie, thank you very much for coming in today.
Thank you, Eugene.
Angie Monksfield, founder of Brahm Centre, talking about chasing the elusive happiness today. And if you have something to share with me as well on the show, do get in touch. Email me at eugene@mediacorp.com.sg. I'm Eugene Loh. This has been a Slice of Life Hour 938 Live.